Tonight, America awaits a coronavirus vaccine.
You've got to engage the community so you prove that it's safe and effective.
As the push for a vaccine takes center stage on the 2020 presidential campaign trail, many wonder when exactly we'll see one approved. And the Senate fight over a new GOP skinny relief bill.
Put it before us on a take it or leave it. No amendments, no debate. Well, this proposal isn't skinny, it's anemic. Why are they afraid to vote?
We're joined by Indiana Senator Mike Braun for the latest on where a COVID relief plan stands on Capitol Hill. Plus, how something called the COVID slide could cause problems for students and teachers alike. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Pandemic outrage, what the president knew and what he told the American people. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Jenna Browder.
Good evening, everyone, and I'm John Jessup. New audio recordings show the president admitting to downplaying the threat of COVID-19 when the virus first made its way to America. Now, critics say the move cost countless lives.
The new recordings are part of 18 on-the-record conversations the president had with journalist Bob Woodward for his new book, Rage. White House correspondent Ben Kennedy joins us with the administration's response tonight. Ben?
Well, Jenna, John, the White House pushed back that President Trump did not take the virus seriously, pointing to him banning travel from China all the way back in January. Today, Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany said President Trump has not lied when it comes to COVID.
The fact is, I'm a cheerleader for this country. I love our country. And I don't want people to be frightened. I don't want to create panic, as you say. And certainly I'm not going to drive this country or the world into a frenzy. We want to show confidence. We want to show strength. We want to show strength as a nation.
That response after the Washington Post reported Bob Woodward had recordings from a February interview with Trump where he talked about COVID being deadly, worse than the flu.
You just breathe the air. That's how it's passed. It's also more deadly than your strenuous flus.
The president, by his own admission in private on the record, acknowledged the depth of this crisis and yet told the American people something very different. How is that, at its core, not an abject betrayal of the public trust?
The president has always been clear-eyed with the American people. He was always clear-eyed about the lives we could lose. Again, from this podium, he acknowledged that this was serious.
The Post report indicated Woodward interviewed Trump again in March, where he told the reporter, "To be honest with you, I wanted to always play it down." The interviews were for Woodward's new book, Rage, set to come out September 15th.
I was very open, whether it's to Woodward or anybody else. It's just another political hit job. But whether it was Woodward or anybody else, you cannot show a sense of panic.
This as one of the companies working on a coronavirus vaccine ran into a setback after a late-stage human trial was put on hold. AstraZeneca called it routine action for safety reasons after one of their volunteers suffered an unexplained illness. It's not clear if it is linked to the trial.
It was one that shows that the science is guiding the way here. And when there was an adverse response that was identified in one individual, AstraZeneca chose to pause that phase 3 clinical trial. There are still 2 American vaccines in phase 3 clinical trials showing great promise.
That promise prompted President Trump to tout a vaccine could be ready before Election Day.
They know we have it. It's only a question of weeks.
The nation's top infectious disease doctor, Anthony Fauci, doubts it will be ready by November 3rd.
You've got to engage the community, both getting the appropriate demographic groups involved in the clinical trial, so you prove that it's safe and effective in them.
9 major drug companies are in the race for a vaccine. They promise not to rush production, but let science win until one is found to be safe and effective.
We will have a vaccine because of this president tearing through bureaucracy to get a safe and effective vaccine. One day it will go away. That is a fact.
Former Vice President Joe Biden attacked Trump's handling of the pandemic while campaigning in Michigan.
And while this deadly disease ripped through our nation, he failed to do his job on purpose. It was a life and death betrayal of the American people.
Now, Biden says he's still waiting to see Trump's plan to safely allocate and distribute a vaccine when one is deemed safe and effective. Today, Biden flat out said that Trump is unfit for his job. John, Jenna?
All right, thank you, Ben. Chief political analyst David Brody joins us now for more. David, in public, the president was saying one thing about the virus. In private, we now know another. The White House says he was trying to avoid panic. Meanwhile, Democratic rival Joe Biden says he lied to the American people, and it's a sign that he botched the response, even though that he knew how deadly it could be. David, how's this going to affect the president in his reelection campaign?
Well, it's not going to affect him at all in his reelection campaign. I mean, look, the politics are the politics. There's the Trump camp and there's the Biden camp, and there's very few undecided voters in the middle. So this is really more about getting out each other's base. And so politically, this isn't really going to make a hill of beans difference, honestly. I mean, that's just the political truth. Now, there's a lot more to be said about what Woodward said and the conversations with Trump, which I'm sure we can talk about in some follow-up questions.
David, you know, there are a lot of books that come out about President Trump, and a lot of times he can just kind of brush off the allegations by either denying them or claiming, you know, fake news or something else. Can he do that this time around, though, if he is on tape as early as February, talking about how serious COVID-19 is? And you'd mentioned the bases. What about the moderate voters, David? The swing
there are a couple
voters.
Things to keep in mind. Let's remember with Donald Trump, okay? He can't back away from this because he said it. But here's the thing. He's pretty much embracing it. I mean, if you think about what this is about, this is classic Trump, right? We have talked, Jenna and John, we have talked extensively about Norman Vincent Peale on this program, Faith Nation, about power of positive thinking. That's what he's all about. Now, in this case, he decided to basically not really alarm, as he says, panic the public about all of this, and he wanted to see how this was going to play out. Meanwhile, and here's the key, meanwhile, the administration was taking steps. Remember, February 7th is when he had that conversation with Bob Woodward. On January 31st, 8 days before that, the government declared a public health emergency on coronavirus, and he banned all travel coming in from China. And there's a lot more steps he took as well. So the actions may not match the words, but there were actions to go along with those words that he said to Bob Woodward. So there's a lot to unpack here. As it relates to moderate voters, sure, he could definitely be hurt there. But I have a feeling most people's minds are made up, and I think it's a base turnout situation right now.
All right, David, we have to leave it there, but good to see you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, David. Well, the new GOP COVID relief plan isn't gaining traction among Senate Democrats. No surprises there. But that's not stopping Majority Leader Mitch McConnell from bringing it up for a vote this week. CBN senior Washington correspondent Tara Mergener has the details.
2 days after Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell announced the $500 million plan, it is heading to a procedural vote tomorrow. It includes things like school aid, new money for vaccines, and a second round of the Paycheck Protection Program for smaller businesses.
Tomorrow, the Senate will cut through all the noise with one vote. Every senator will either say they want to move forward, agree where we can, make a law to help people, and keep arguing over our differences later, or say they prefer to do absolutely nothing.
So now Republicans are going to cut their original inadequate $1 trillion bill in half in a desperate attempt to find the lowest common denominator among Republicans. As the pain, the economic pain for millions of Americans advance, Senate Republicans are actually moving backward.
The bill does not contain another round of $1,200 direct payments or the $300 weekly jobless benefit that would expire just after Christmas. Now, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky says he will oppose the bill, refusing new spending that piles on debt, a sign of the trouble McConnell faces in crafting a bill his own party will support. John, Jenna.
Joining us now from Capitol Hill, Senator Mike Braun from the great state of Indiana. Senator Braun, it's good to see you. Thank you for being with us.
Well, my pleasure.
You know, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says the Senate will vote on a targeted COVID relief bill sometime this week. Senator, what is in it, and does it have your support?
So the main issue for many of us would be the top line of the bill. And is it going to look at what we did with the CARES Act to see what we might improve upon it, and if there are some funds that we could repurpose. So 7 or 8 of us more conservative senators did get together over the last 2 weeks to weigh in. And I appreciate Leader McConnell listened to us. And I think that's why, you know, the initial HEALS Act was closer to $1 trillion. This is around half of that, and then has a bunch of common sense stuff in it that's aimed at the most important parts that still need help. Also had a piece in there about school choice. I was hoping we'd have healthcare transparency in there as well. That's still the biggest issue out here, is the high cost of healthcare. We'll get back to that, I think, once we get COVID in the rearview mirror. But all in all, no bill's ever going to be perfect to any individual senator. I think this has got a chance of getting maybe 51 votes on our side. I'm very, very cautious about thinking any Democrat might vote for it, though.
Well, along those lines, you've likened the divide over how to respond to the pandemic between congressional Republicans and Democrats as the Hatfields and McCoys. How much bipartisan support can this bill get if there weren't even enough Republicans to bring the HEALS Act to a floor vote?
I think, sadly, that's the nature of where we're at. You look at the platform that they're running on, it's so different from where many of us as Republicans feel you need to be. And generally, any bill of substance or essence, unless you're renaming a post office or doing something that doesn't have much legislative pith to it, we're there. I mean, when you look at major legislation that's crossed the threshold, 18, we passed the Criminal Justice Reform Bill. I asked how long that was stewing. 10 to 12 years. We got Tax Cut and Jobs Act done in December 17 before I got here. That was done through reconciliation. You go back to Obamacare in 2010, along with the tax hike that went along with it, you know, there weren't any Republicans for it. We've got to get beyond that, and I hope that reforming health care is a place where Democrats and Republicans can get together. My transparency bill, 90% of Democrats and Republicans believe in health care transparency. Hoping that that can be something maybe where we can get back together to where we can get more than just one side voting for it, right, one side against it.
Yeah. Well, caught in the middle are millions of unemployed Americans, shuttered businesses, and people who are close to eviction. According to the Indianapolis Star, 313,000 Hoosiers could face eviction when the CDC moratorium ends. Senator, what is being done to solve this impending crush on renters and landlords?
So, over the last month, 3 of those 4 weeks, I traveled the state. And Indiana, by the way, has an unemployment rate that is now in the mid-7s. My home county, DuBois County, Jasper, Indiana, is almost crossing into the high 5s. We were at 6.1. So we are a state that has a balanced budget amendment. We're in the black every year, had a rainy day fund. And yes, if there was targeted help, and what you just described would be a place, I think we can handle most of that within our own state capability. Where it gets tricky is so many states have not run their business affairs in that fashion, and that's why you've got the disparate kind of requests of needing $2 to $3 trillion versus what I think, if you hone in on what we actually need, and even in some of the blue states where what we've got in this bill that we're going to vote on would be a benefit. But it still begs the question, should we be doing anything here that bails out bad management, bad behavior that's accumulated over decades, not just with COVID?
All right, Indiana Senator Mike Braun, we always appreciate your time. Thanks for being on Faith Nation today.
You're welcome.
To have sex before you marry is a bad idea. Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire, Monday night at 9:30. The Global Lane takes you around the world. providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Watch The Global Lane, Thursday night at 9:30.
Educating Christian voters about the upcoming 2020 election. That is the goal behind the Family Research Council's Pray, Vote, Stand broadcast. But a recent airing of the weekly program was unexpectedly dropped by the tech company responsible for sending out the link to the broadcast.
FRC says that's because of its Christian conservative worldview. Joining us now, Tony Perkins, Family Research Council President. Tony, great to see you. Mobile Cause is the company that is behind the move. Hopefully we set that up correctly. Can you give us more background and explain what happened?
Sure, John. You and Jen are absolutely right. What we had here is a major initiative, as you know, where you've had to shift everything kind of online, prayvotestand.org. It's the home for a weekly broadcast that we do to equip Christians, evangelicals, other conservative Christians on how to really influence the outcome of this election. And we have done the first installment. It's every Wednesday evening. The second one rolls around 1 hour before we were to notify viewers of the opportunity to join us through text. The firm that we had been with for 3 years, Mobile Calls, 1 hour before, dropped us.
So CBN, Tony, reached out to Mobile Cause about all of this, and we haven't heard back as of broadcast time. What reasoning did they give FRC when you all reached out to them?
Well, I'll tell you very clearly what they did, and this is unusual. They actually put this in writing, that they stated that their reason was SPLC's hate list. Now, keep in mind, though, but after 3 years of using them as our vendor, all of a sudden, because of this group that is now really discredited by Congress and others, they dropped us. Now, this is what I believe. I think Mobile Calls apparently has a bigger cause, and that is their allegiance to the leftist ideology that is seeking to silence conservatives, and in this case, religious conservatives.
Tony, you say big tech companies target conservatives. Why do big tech companies target them?
Well, I think, look where we're at. We're 8 weeks from a major election, which is going to determine the future of this country, whether or not we preserve this republic as we know it or not. And so we're seeing this on these major platforms controlled by big tech, where conservatives are being silenced. And again, the timing of this is egregious, and it's so obvious. 1 hour before we were to use that platform to notify people of watching this broadcast, which was growing in numbers, they pulled the plug on it using the discredited Southern Poverty Law Center as the excuse. In fact, just yesterday, an extensive list of notable rabbis has called upon Jeff Bezos at Amazon to stop using and terminate his relationship with the Southern Poverty Law Center. So again, look, we're a Christian organization. We're a 501c3 religious organization. It is against the law to discriminate against religious organizations for their beliefs. That's what Mobile Calls has done, and we're going to take this further.
Tony, just about 30 seconds left here, but what are you hoping, getting your story out, FRC's story, what are you hoping that does?
Well, number one, I hope more people tune in to PrayVoteStand.org. But also, I hope that big tech gets the message. We conservatives, we may be Christians, we may be driven by love, but we're going to stand for truth. And we're not going to sit by and let them take our free speech.
FRC's Tony Perkins. Tony, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon.
Thanks, John.
Up next, the COVID slide. What it is and how it could affect students across the country this fall.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
On the home front, Tuesday morning at 10:30.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government.
My focus has been trying to really make sure we have the future leaders we need for the bench and the bar and for society generally.
You'll learn from highly credentialed leaders who are current and former judges, distinguished scholars, and ACLJ counsel.
I'm so glad I chose Regent. The relationships here have been amazing. The faculty have been amazing. Not everybody's called to the same thing when they leave law school, but they're called by a God who has a purpose for their lives, and He is going to use that education to make a difference in the world.
Regent will prepare you to be a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer. To start your rewarding law career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July. Apply today.
Well, most students are officially back in the classroom, be it virtual or in person.
But on top of the stress of uncertainty, being back to school could add an added difficulty. Heather Sells reports on what's being called the COVID slide.
Students in states like Florida and Georgia are physically back in school, while many of their peers across the country are online. Virtual school districts are waiting on state and local health authorities for the green light to reopen, and everyone is trying to figure out just what happened in the last 6 months. Educators call it the COVID slide.
We don't know where that learning loss is going to be.
Dr. Kurt Kressig, Dean of Regent University's School of Education, says educators have never seen a disruption like this.
We can take the data from the previous summer learning losses, or a summer slide we call it, and we also take a look at research from, let's say, Hurricane Katrina that shut down schools for a month. What happened with those children?
What exactly has happened in the pandemic so far, what students have retained and forgotten, is pretty much every educator's guess until baseline testing can take place in person. Experts say they are most worried about K through 3 and 2 subjects, math and reading. Kressig says teaching students how to read online goes against everything educators know.
It's a very intimate process. You have a professional educator usually sitting next to a child, finger on the book, finger on the words as they try to put the words together. The phonics, everything has to come together.
There's also big concerns about kids from low-income families who may not have a laptop or Wi-Fi. This picture of 2 schoolgirls using Wi-Fi at a California Taco Bell struck a nerve, prompting an embarrassed district to offer a hotspot. Other districts have started sending Wi-Fi equipped buses to low-income neighborhoods. Teachers will have a tall order this fall, assessing their kids' progress and providing a range of teaching to fit their needs.
You're going to have kids in a class where some retain more than others. And typically, we've always differentiated in classrooms, but now more so than ever.
There is a silver lining. A large-scale survey of parents and kids found improved well-being early on in the pandemic for students, less stress, and more sleep, independence, and personal responsibility. All those factors could make a big difference this fall as the challenge of wiping out the COVID slide plays out. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Coming up, winter is coming. We'll show you where right after this.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government. Ready to become a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer? To start your rewarding career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man, come with...
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
And finally tonight, while people in the Carolinas are keeping an eye on a pair of tropical storms and California's fight summer wildfires, in Colorado, it's an entirely different story.
Yeah, one that involves a lot of snow. Some places, like John at my parents' home in Gunnison, seeing as much as 8 inches.
Not excited.
Not excited.
I love the summer.
It's kind of a freaks cold and snowstorm right now, and I think we'll be back to, our normal that we've had all summer by this weekend.
And researchers at Colorado State University say this September storm is the earliest accumulating snow seen in more than 130 years of record keeping. And it came as a surprise to a lot of folks who had just been experiencing record-breaking heat. Over the weekend, Fort Collins hit 100 degrees, the highest temperature ever observed there in September. And by Tuesday, just a couple of days later, a total shift with this incredible snow.
Jenna, I hope your parents are faring okay.
Yeah, the electricity's out. It's my mom used the word doozy to describe it.